Hi, my name is Shannon Golden, and today I'm going to talk to you about communicating with the blind or visually impaired. I am legally blind. I have 10 degrees of central vision. A normal person has 170. There is complete blindness where the person has no light perception and legal blindness. And the causes can range from congenital or genetic, post-traumatic vision loss, and occasionally, even today, nutritional blindness. In the U.S., it's estimated that 600,000 children are blind or visually impaired. In the U.S., approximately 3.4 million people over the age of 40 are legally blind. This number is expected to climb to 60 million by 2050. That is a sad but true statistic. Of the group of people here, I would like to ask a question. Which one do you think is blind? If you guessed nobody, you would be right, because blindness doesn't really have a look. However, there are some easy ways to identify someone who's blind if you're just walking down the road. There is the mobility cane. So this isn't a very good picture of this cane, but a mobility cane is a white cane that the blind use to navigate the world, and that keeps them from walking off a ledge or walking into things. But an interesting thing about the mobility cane is it's also an identifier for people to notice that someone is blind or visually impaired. However, if you see someone walking and their cane is all white, that means that they have zero light perception. They're completely blind. But if they have red at the end of their cane, that means that they have some vision. So there's the mobility cane, and then there's also a guide dog. And there's lots of different types of service dogs out there, but you'd be able to tell a guide dog from other types of service dogs because they would have generally a high quality leather harness with a handle, and the handle might be leather or it might not be. Mine's not, mine's white, but anyway, it'll have a handle, and look, the setup on the dog will look like this. So that's how you can tell that it's a guide dog. So in 2024, we have lots of assistive technology. And just real quick, here's a better picture of the identity cane. And that's not a guide dog harness. Anyway, assistive technology. So in 2024, we have lots of accessibility and mobility mobile apps, like for our phones. And almost there are a lot of apps that are accessible, especially if you have an iPhone. So you can even set them up differently to accommodate your specific needs. Audible and tactile signs these days are great because like crosswalks, if you hear audible, walk or don't walk. Also the little bumps at the end of a sidewalk before you go into the street. Those are for people who are using canes to be able to tell that they're fixing to enter a street. It's a very significant safety thing that is fantastic to see. Also, things like digital book reading devices help make our lives a little bit easier. Actually, the digital ones are making people's lives a lot easier because we can get them on our phones or iPads or tablets or computers, and it's making life easier. And also hardware reading, book reading devices. They're kind of getting outdated now, but a lot of people find them useful. And GPS when navigating is still really great. But it's interesting that even in this day and age, there's studies that have been done that indicate that there's still nothing better than a white cane and a guide dog for a blind person to just generally get around. And I just thought that was really interesting because, it's 2024. Some things to keep in mind. Blindness takes a toll on those experiencing it. Like we were talking earlier in our class about learning to speak and how children look at our mouths to be able to pick up on speech cues. And children who are blind, which now we know there are 600 million of them, 600,000, my apologies, of them in the US, they could experience speech delays due to this issue of not being able to see people, but they still overcome it. But blindness is also, and visual impairment is also really hard on families, and especially if those individuals or families are experiencing changes. The anxiety level and depression level of people who are experiencing vision loss is extremely high. So if you are going to interact with a blind or visually impaired person, social situations are probably going to be awkward. They just are. It's something that all of us talk about and laugh about in the blind, low vision community. For example, if someone is completely blind and you make a face like as a part of your way of communicating, they're not going to pick up on that. Handshakes is another one. Physical cues. Handshakes, for me even personally, get very awkward because people extend their hand, and if I'm looking at their face, I don't see their hand, so I don't know that they're trying to shake my hand. So I've had people get really upset with me and think that I was trying to snub them, and that wasn't the case. I just didn't see it. So if you go to interact with someone who is blind, just bear that in mind. Say you saw someone with a white cane and you know, or you have a very good indication, the white cane's an indicator that they're blind. Just, it might be awkward. It's just part of it. Some tips for communicating with us. So, we are blind. That means we cannot see. We are not deaf. Please do not yell at us. We can usually hear very well. So something else is say something when you enter a room. Just, hey, or just something to let them know, hey, I'm in the room. Say your name upon beginning a conversation. This is especially helpful if you're in a group of people. Verbal directions, specific verbal directions, such as I use here along the left wall, the third door. That means that I could, if I had zero vision, I could find the left wall and I could feel down to the third door and find what I'm looking for. And using a clear right and left. In that vein, some ways to help assist someone who's blind or visually impaired. You can use the clock face method as a directional guide. 12 o'clock's in front, 6 o'clock's in back, 3 o'clock's to the right, 9 o'clock's to the left. Another thing is you can offer your arm. Pictured here, there's a guy, a gentleman guiding a blind gentleman, and they may take your forearm like this guy, or they may choose to take your elbow. And if they have a guide dog, you can ask, hey, can I lead you there? So it'll be a little bit faster because the guide dogs are taught to follow people. Something to avoid. Please do not push, pull, or otherwise put your hands on people. It's extremely awkward and irritating to have that happen to you. Giving directions, such as, well, it's over there, or it's on the other side of the couch. Well, that doesn't help us very much, does it? Because if we can't see and we've never been somewhere before, how do we know where the couch is? And sometimes, in all honesty, I find myself getting frustrated with people, but I try to always bear in mind that we don't always think about this stuff. It's not common knowledge. It's not something that most of us are experienced in dealing with. And so I try to always bear that in mind. And something else that I try to always remember is before I started going blind, my husband and I saw a guy in a store looking at a candy bar, and he had a guide dog. And I thought, that guy's not blind. What is he doing? And I've kicked myself over and over and over that I even said that because I was just so uneducated. I didn't know. And today, that's me. Like, I can see to like shop, however, I might not see a bucket that is in front of me or something like that. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and the reason I felt the need to do this presentation is just because I think that everyone on all levels deserve to be treated with a level of dignity. And in this area, there aren't very many visually impaired people. And so that's all I have for you. So I wish everybody the best of luck on their presentations.